I'm going to talk about how we made svenska.yle.fi a responsive mobile first site, and a little bit about myself. I started in school in I think it was around 96, and working with web, and that has continued, so that's why I'm working with it still. I work with a bit of different projects here at Yle: children's programming and youth and news. And I thought I would start with why we made it mobile first, and why we have decided not to make apps, but chose to make web pages that act as web apps instead. And that's because this is a quote I found in a blog by Josh Clark. He wrote it as an answer to Nielsen when he wrote that it's better to make an app and that users will find that more better than responsive web design. And Josh writes that 25% of people in the US who browse the web on smartphones almost never use any other platform, and that we can't settle for serving such a huge audience a stripped down experience or force them to swim through a desktop layout in a small screen. And that's pretty much what we're thinking as well. A good example of someone who really succeeded in making a web app is Financial Times. I mean, they did it much better than what we have done, but I mean, they have like 1 million users on their web app. And when we look at our traffic data, in January this year, we had 8.5% of total usage was on mobile, and in May it was 13%. And this doesn't correspond to the statistics we see when we look at how the mobile specific site was behaving. So we're seeing that people are choosing to use our regular site with their mobile phone. And by designing the system mobile first and not hiding content from the user, you're reaching a bigger audience. And I say system because when you're designing a responsive site, it's more of designing an ecosystem. You're not designing just one page, you're designing many. And by not requiring users to download an app and update an app, you're also making your site more accessible. I mean, I couldn't make my mom download an app, but she could use our site on the mobile. And you're not spending any money on getting people to download your app. And when you share something, it will be experienced in the best way possible by your audience. And the return on investment is much better on a mobile site. A responsive one, I mean. So actually building mobile first. Making a site mobile first, it sets some limitation and it affects the design process. Some people are talking about designing from mobile to desktop or from desktop to mobile, or all at once, or what's now being talked about a lot as designing in the browser. Is that interesting to someone? There's a good slideshow about that from Front-End United in Amsterdam. That's what I do. I find designing in the browser the best way to develop a responsive site. And there's a better flow that way, and you kind of see how the site is acting, and when you can make decide that what's best for mobile means that the other versions has to adapt, or vice versa. So Drupal, we're using the Omega team, and mobile first. Well, some of the things that we ran into with using Omega was that the way Omega loads CSS files prevents us from using JavaScript to load the CSS files for other versions. Like if you're on mobile, we would want to load only the CSS for mobile, but currently that's not possible because media queries are loaded. All media queries are loaded on all devices all the time, even though they're not used. One thing that I'm going to look into, but I haven't had time to look into yet, is that we're having, we have several, even though we're using the CSS compression, we have several CSS files, and that's because they go into different CSS groups in Drupal. So what I'm going to experiment with is changing the weights of these CSS files to merge them into one. It can cause some problems, I've heard, but it's going to be interesting to try it out. Another little problem we ran into is that IE-specific CSS files are loaded before the Omega CSS files are loaded. So we can't, it's kind of problematic when you want to rewrite some rules for Internet Explorer. You have to be much more specific. The reason why we would want to remove the CSS files isn't just because of the weight, but also fewer HTTP requests. Yeah, now I'm gonna show you the site, what it looks like. If you already haven't checked it out. So this is the wide version of the site, and we decided to go with a set with a layout, and the reason for that was at the moment it's easier to control the layout if we're not completely fluid, and I think that the users on desktop would find the layout we're able to give them too limiting. And I'll show you one other thing. This is what we do when the content isn't loaded. This content here is loaded only on desktop. So if you're on a mobile, you'll never see anything else but those links that take you to the same kind of content. But if you're on a bigger screen size, then you'll see it. Yeah. The reason we chose Omega in 2011 was it was the hottest theme at the moment. We decided to use Omega because it felt like the wisest choice at the moment, and we needed something to start learning, and we wanted to focus on our energy on solving the things we knew Drupal wouldn't be able to give us out of the box. And yeah. We decided to go for a very sparsely decorated layout to keep the UI clean and make the basic responsive design as light as possible. And I decided to go for defined areas for the graphics, keeping the layout and everything that's more layout related CSS generated, so that we're not loading a lot of layouts from graphical stuffs. So what I mean with the graphical areas is that some of the areas are defined. We can set a background image and that way give the page a different layout. And we wanted to get experience on working with a responsive design and working with Drupal, and before we built some kind of swamp that it would be very difficult to dig ourselves out of. And also, while doing this, I wanted to develop a method of embracing the possibilities of responsive design and not leaving pixel perfect behind. One cool thing we did at the same time was also that we made our first web font, so the new Yle Ilme that we're using at the moment has a web font as well that we're using. Omega comes with a lot of markup. This image that you can see here I would want to remove everything from here to here because we're not using any of it, and Omega just prints it out. As with lots of modules in Drupal, there's a lot of markup that's never really used or needed. But this is one of the compromises we made. We decided to go with the theme and see what we do later. When it comes to images, a big part of the responsive design, we first tried, the solution we chose is that a small image is sent to all, like that's part of the page, the markup, and there's a JavaScript that detects if you are on the big screen, then you will, see a bigger image that's loaded afterwards. And you can prevent page flickering by setting the image width and height in the CSS. So then what you get is first you get a blurry image, and then it sharpens when the second image is loaded. And we were lucky, we had our own homebrew image management system that had a lot of image sizes from the beginning. This is the code, nothing special really. This is the markup that this is what we print by default when the JavaScript then takes this one, and then it attaches different images sizes that we can use a JavaScript to swap. We were also lucky that Arena was being rebuilt at the same time, so we got the audio and video Flash-free embed. Unfortunately, you need Flash for playback, and it's responsive. The only downside is that the image is still not mobile first. It's one big image, but we can't really affect that yet. We're using fitvids.js for Vimeo and YouTube, and there's a module you can use for Drupal as well. We took some actions to reduce the kilobyte size of our site on mobile and the amount of HTTP requests. What helped was the image and video solution I talked about. We also did the social media share buttons in a way that you only see an image on desktop until you hover on them, and then on mobile, only when you click on them, they're loaded. The article is only displays its core content. It has nothing related stuff in mobile. Everything like that is loaded by JavaScript if you're on a desktop. And that gives us this result. This is the kilobyte size on mobile, the turquoise one, and this is the kilobyte size on desktop. As you can see, there's a huge difference on articles. There's not a huge difference on subject pages. And the reason for that is that on our subject pages, we don't have a breaking point. We can't tell the page at this stage, don't load this part on mobile. Pretty much the same thing with HTTP requests. You can see it follows the other slide. Lessons learned, something that I think a lot of developers should know, is that in views, always unclick this one when you create a view, so that there's not a lot of extra marker printed for the view. And please provide a unique style name. We're having problems with iframes and auto height on our desktop versions because it really doesn't work well, so we have to figure out something else. And yeah, what's on our issue list right now? Well, we want to improve the theme. We want to switch the theme or get a new one. We want to improve the integration of other services like Twitter, Facebook. It's not really responsive at all, or it's not working with a mobile-first approach. And we're also having the responsiveness also sets some limitations on how we can integrate services like data visualizations or weather, sports results, and that kind of stuff. Want to work more on the layout, implement bigger pictures. That's why we have a gray box on the bigger screen sizes at the moment, and have a content breakpoint on subject pages. Yeah. Are there any questions? If you can't think of your question now, you can come and talk to me later. Send me an email or... Yeah.
I actually have one. You said some criticisms about the Omega team.
Yeah.
Let's say that you have this project now. You have to redesign it again.
Yeah.
Would you use Omega team? Would you make your own team, or would you use some other starter team, or what would you do?
Good question. I haven't got a perfect answer for that because I don't know. If I would have to make a decision now, I would start looking at other teams to see what has really happened. Mårten is doing a team called Mothership, and it would be interesting to see how that one works. But most likely, I think we would end up with something that we make ourselves, pick the best parts out of the systems available. And you can also follow our development on our blog or on Twitter. Then I'll let Teemu continue and ask me later if you have questions.
Yeah, it's nice to have you all here in so many numbers. Well, it works. Perfect. Let's go to the presentation mode so we can fail. My name is Teemo Tebest and I work here at Yleisradio. Also, that's my Twitter name, and well, you can follow me or not if you want to. I'm not in a competition. I'm here to talk about semantic web and onki. And onki is a module for Drupal, and it's a service provided by the Aalto University or the Semantic Web Research Group. Well, here's a short sneak into my presentation. I have quite many slides, but I hope I have the time. And also to point out that I have very cool JavaScript slides here. Well, this is my internet meme to introduce myself. So if you see this picture, me coding in a closet with apparently some weird stuff around it, that's me. Well, I like to call myself a social media web developer, among other things. And I've been working with Drupal since 2009. And I've been working with various projects, but this Svenska.yle's new Drupal environment has been the largest one I've been working with. And as my background, I used to be a researcher at the Tampere University of Technology, so that's my background. And I joined the awesome Yle team in December 2011. So I've been here half a year. But let's get to the mission. I'm first going to talk something about semantic web, as if someone doesn't know what does it mean. At least I didn't before I did these slides. Well, that's a joke, but maybe there's something true about it also. And then something about ontologies, what are those and why are they part of the semantic web. Then the onki.fi service and the onki module that we have just released as a sandbox module in PO, and of course some conclusions. First, this was a question that I stumbled into. Semantic web, what does it mean? Well, as any of us, I went to Wikipedia and looked it out, and it said that it means that content is machine readable. And what does that mean? It means that machines are able to read the content like us humans are. And like if I would read an article about anything, and it had an author name and stuff like that, a description, a title, a published date, I can read it as a human being and understand what it means, but a machine doesn't understand that content unless it's like described it to it. And this has obvious benefits in searching and finding the content. So you can have like author, publish date, taxonomy information, even description of the content. For example, sema.org has defined these things. You can check them out. And in practice, semantic web allows one to use the web more efficiently. And take, for example, Google's knowledge graph, which has just been released, which doesn't tell you the links that have information about the thing that you are searching, but collect you information in one single view. And also Wolfram Alpha, and also we can check out this Google Rich Snippet about our website. This is a tool that shows how Google sees our web page, the svenska.yle.fi. So I've pointed out the URL here, if you can see it. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And then we'll see that it has all this information. It has the author information. It's Eva Koskinen has written it. Error, author profile does not have the information to Google profile. Well, that could be fixed. What else? There is his family name, given name, locality, title, and even I've been part of this article as an author, which has been quite nice here at Yleisradio, that one can do stuff like this too, participate in the news, creating the news. And this is how the Google sees it. And here are also the taxonomies that have been, or the terms or tags that have been attached to this article. And it has something to do with the försäljningen, sales of alcohol. Hopefully we can get back here. Okay, that's about it. Then something about ontologies. Ontologies are part of the semantic web, and they describe how different tags or terms relate to each other. And ontologies describe the term that is used. For example, if the term is alcohol, it describes what the alcohol is about. It like links it to other words, and this has this is a real good thing. Well, let's go to the example for showing what the ontologies are about. Let's take this example of a fly. It's this thing which is an insect. It's a species, a living thing. And ontologies describe this path. What is the word about? And the word is not like a singularity, but it can mean other things. But the ontology path describes what the thing or the word is about. So if I would use the word fly, it wouldn't confuse me with this zipper. Okay, then the onki.fi web service. This is a quote from the onki.fi website, and it says that onki.fi is a service that contains Finnish and international ontologies, vocabularies and thesauri needed for publishing content cost efficiently to the semantic web. And international means that it has words in Finnish, English and Swedish currently. But while it's an ontology, it can be linked to any other ontology which has the same words, and the word is the linkage between different ontologies. So onki is, when we decide to go with onki, it doesn't restrict us to use only that. So it's maintained, like I said, by the Semantic Computing Research Group located at the Aalto University. And in onki there are several different ontologies that can be used either separately or at the same time. And different ontologies mean that you can have an ontology that has places names or people or only animals or stuff like that. But we are using them all at the same time, while news can have obviously a whole bunch of like tags from all categories. And during the development of the Swedish svenska.yle's new Drupal environment, we built up a module that integrates the ontology served by Onki with the Drupal taxonomies. And credits for this goes also to Tomi Mikola, who's here, maybe not, but here present. And he's from Meara. He initialized this project, and I've been doing it since. But he's to thank for this project too in the beginning. And the motivation to do this integration was that we wanted to have a semantic solution that would give us a better searchability and findability for the content, but also a solution that would support editors in the content creation process. And the last part, supporting the editors, means that the editors don't have to come up with the tags, but they are served from an existing vocabulary, so they don't have to make up the words themselves, or whether to use plural versions of the words or not, and stuff like that. And searchability and findability also means that we can relate content more easily to other content in other news sites or anything like that. And of course Google understands our content also better while it's done by a semantic solution, while the machines can read it. Well, let's get our hands dirty a little bit. The Onki module is quite like normal module. It has a settings page, and in the settings page I have here a clean Drupal 7 installation, and I have just installed this Onki module. So you have to define all these settings before you can use it. And you have to define the Onki domain, which is onki.fi. It can be something else. Onki parameters, API version, how many autocomplete results count you want, which language do you want to use, and stuff like that. Very basic stuff. And what it looks like when you create an article, well, this is quite basic. We have a title and a body field, but here we have a Drupal like add tags field where we can type in anything we like. Let's try in Riikes, which is kotimaan uutiset, or this thing is, I don't know, domestic news. And we get the autocompleted results from Onki. Let's try this one. So we can see that it has these words, and there's also the ontology path for defining what the word is about. So if we have, like here we have utanförskap 3 times, it's like different words or ontology words still, and you can see here what it's about from the path, ontology path. So that's let's pick up one and add term, and it goes right there. And like I said, the module has just been this week released as a sandbox module, and I've also placed it under the review process, so it will be a full project in a couple of weeks, and it would help if you would review it. And participation to the development process also encouraged. And if you have anything you want to ask, just come by me and ask. Just a few words about also a service that we are using is an ARPA service, which is also hosted there at the Aalto University. It's a sub-functionality of Onki, which automates the tagging process. And it's like takes content in and tries to guess what tags would describe the content. And we also integrated this to our system, and it's coming also as a contrib module. I will show it how it works. We have an article here title, body, and then we have this analyze text button here at the bottom. And when we click it, it connects to ARPA service at the Aalto University, and hopefully we don't get the demo effect, but the actual tags. Okay, it worked. Nice. And it guessed that these kinds of words would describe this content, so the editors don't have to figure themselves out, or this helps the content creation process.
Just a question, there were like 2 theater words, so those are different ontologies then?
Yeah, they are different words, yes, and the editor has to decide which one is the better one. So we have
Theater and theater.
and there is another one. It's Förställande konst and organisationer. So other one has to be removed. Let's say it's this one. Yes. Was there a question? Nothing. And actually another one. It isn't so wise, the system, and it doesn't learn from the feedback, but hopefully someday it will. But this helps in any case, the editors, and they have been using it quite a lot. Then, where were we? We were here. The obstacles. There have been quite many. Well, sometimes the Onki servers won't answer, and there have been some downtime. We are hoping that the servers would be provided somewhere more like where there wouldn't be any downtime. And the possibility to add custom terms is not there yet, but it will be. So currently you can't add any terms that doesn't exist in the ontologies. So if we have like this sports event this year, it won't be a tag yet. You can't make it a tag. But that will be there. And there's this service called Saha that allows us to do it. It's also a service provided by the Aalto University. And some categories are not available, like spatial, like locations or TV programs, which is quite important to us. Like we want to link our programs to the content, or people like Tarja Halonen aren't there in any of the ontologies. But that is also when it comes to possibility to add custom terms, that fixes that a bit. Then the benefits. Users, for the end users, they get better searchability, of course, when you can find the content more easily. For the editors, it gives you an easy access to tag content. And from the business point of view, you get better visibility for your content while it shows up in Google research. And for developers, this gives you an easier access to the content. Like you don't have to scrape it from the HTML, but you get it like you would be reading an XML file or something like that. Well, that's my part. And if you now have any question about Morten's or mine, please do.
Do you have access to the music, the Finnish music ontology?
I'm not sure, but if that's in the Onki, then yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about that ontology. But I can check it out for you later. Any other? Yes?
What kind of feedback have you got from the editors, the users?
Well, there have been some like downtime issues and some like coding errors. That's because of me. But I think the feedback has been good, while previously they would have to come up with the tags themselves, and they wouldn't like help that much with finding the content, while the tags could have been like plural or not plural and stuff like that. The feedback have been in general positive. And we have had this whole system update also, so this has just been a part of it. So the editors have had a lot of things to learn. Yeah.
You said that in theory it's possible to like connect these onki ontologies to like some other taxonomies or
Yeah.
something provided by Google. Have you tried to do any of that?
Not yet.
But it's possible. In
Yes.
theory.
Yes, it's possible. Any ontologies can connect to each other quite easily.
So you could basically like create some kind of a list of like related news from the Google or
Yeah.
some other taxonomy.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
You can even use over language barriers.
Yeah. Because the word is defined by the ontology, not the word itself.
Yeah.
And may I remind you, you can also ask from Mårten
Yeah,
if you have any questions about that too. I think how much time we have, or is this
Around
it?
5 minutes still.
I think what we can say about the metadata generally in Finland is that it's taking off really. There's a lot of time and money being spent on it, so
Yeah.
things are developing very quickly. There are a lot of problems and a lot of stuff that hasn't been defined yet, but it won't be defined anytime soon if nobody does anything about it, so that's why we decided to start.
Yeah, other media companies have also have interest in this because it has so clear benefits to them.
Maybe what we could say about Saha, something more about that.
Yeah, Saha is a service also hosted by Aalto, like I said, and one can create a project there. Anyone can create a project there and add words into the project, and those are not ontologies but vocabulary. Well, and that's the way to add new content to the system. And from Saha, where you have a project, if it is a good project and well defined, it can get as part of the as an ontology in Onki, so anyone can use it through the actual service. But that roadmap for that is like not so clear yet, but that's the way to do it.
What we are hoping we'll be able to do is that everyone needs list of famous people in Finland,
Yeah.
and that we will be able to create a crowdsourcing for media companies, so that names of people in the news will be added, so that not everyone has to create their own list.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been working kind of close to this Saha, not with it itself, but I know this issue of collecting people's name has been discussed by what is it, like the privacy. It's there's questions of privacy because
Yeah.
there's a list of
People's names.
and information related to that.
Yeah, we've
So
stumbled also into that problem.
Yeah, I hope that I guess that has been kind of semi-solved. That there's now like a go for it.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about that. But do you have some secret information that we don't have about the future administration of Onki and Saha and so on? Because
Well,
it's a research project,
Yeah.
and like you said, there has been some downtime
Yeah.
because,
Well,
issues.
I don't know if it's real information or secret information, but there have been discussions that the government should host the service and not like university, because it would be more solid that way. But I don't know where those discussions are right now in the
There's this project in Finland,
Yeah.
and this is what they are discussing there.
Yeah. A national library is
yeah,
one candidate,
yeah, I've heard that also.
and technically CSC.
Yeah.
Is there a way if one is interested in helping in the developing of the Onki module, or is it just like more like a in-house building stuff? Or
Well, it's now released as a project in DO, so anyone can contribute, and we would encourage people to do so because it's not ready yet. it has some obvious bugs in it, which should be defined as issues in the module, but we haven't had the time to do that just yet, because we just released it as a sandbox module, and we are learning how to even publish stuff on DO. But go check it out and install it and review it, and then develop it. And there's the Tommy, who's been building also this module.
That's why you sneak in.
So great applause.